Hello and welcome to another episode of the Women Can Do Show. I am your host, Rochelle Sawyer Cobb, and I have with me the amazing Kendel Abrams. Welcome to the show, Kendall.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Definitely. So, just to let you know who Kendall is, this amazing queen. Kendall is a golf instructor and the owner of Golf Eudaimonia. She was the inaugural member of the Division One Howard University women's golf team. Wow. As a result, her incredible impact at Howard University, she was inducted into the African American Collegiate Golfers Hall of Fame in May 2023. Wow, Kendall, that's an amazing accomplishment, and we're going to get into why that is so amazing and kind of rare. But before we get into all of that, just tell us, who is Kendall outside of all of the accolades? Just Kendall. Who is Kendall?
For sure. I would say so. I'm definitely a servant leader. I've always been taught to, give back, especially being on the golf course. It's like, leave the golf course better than how you found it. Same thing goes with life, leave life better than you found it. So I always believe that I'm here for a reason, for a purpose. And like that purpose is obviously to make people's lives better. And however I can do that, whether it be golf, giving back, telling people to exercise more. I'm a big advocate about just staying outside and staying active and going outside the typical norms of our community just to, empower ourselves and really, reach the full potential that, God has given us. So that's Kendall in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Much.
And then, so you graduated from Howard University.
Correct.
Okay. Awesome. HU?
You know.
So I read an article about you, and the statement that you made stood out to me. And you said, one bad swing or score does not define someone, but giving up sure does.
Absolutely.
And I love how you use almost a sports analogy, but you can apply it to life itself. So speak to that statement, like what you meant by that.
For sure. I mean, life's all about ups and downs.
Yeah.
And same thing with golf. There's ups and downs so many times, and it's so unpredictable. And I'm trying to, preach to my students and anybody that I come across. Everybody says that golf isn't their sport, or golf isn't for them. And I share with them, golf is very similar to life. So like if you're saying, golf's not for you, right? Like golf throws you a bunch of curveballs, and like there's days where you're just not feeling it at all, or you just don't feel like you have everything figured out, but you still got to keep pushing through. You still got to keep showing up. You still got to giving it, 100% your best effort, because that's, what being an adult is. It's like showing up when you don't want to, showing up when
exactly,
it's not your most favorite, but it's times like that that make you stronger. And I've recently been on this like running journey. So like I've been running, and then competed in a half marathon 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Never thought I'd do that.
Yeah.
But I realized, back then when I first started running, especially as like a little kid, right? I only run a mile or so during gym class, but like I was super excited about that. Like that was like my thing. That was my event. As I got older and I started doing cross country, I was like, distance running is just a killer. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And what I realized is it's all about patience. So like I have a lot of patience with golf, and a lot of patience even with kids. But when it came time for like running, right, I realized like it's not a battle against someone else. It's really a battle against me.
Yeah.
So pacing myself, working on my breathing, working on just staying disciplined and committed, and being like, hey, you may not feel good today, but like you're going to feel way better tomorrow when you've done this exercise. And then, seeing obviously the hard work pay off, that I got through a half marathon, and now I'm like pushing to get through a full marathon. Like it's a journey in itself, but it's a beautiful one. So
yeah. That's beautiful. And I love how you said that it's me versus me. I always tell people that it's you versus you. Like you can't pay attention to everything and everybody, what's happening around you. It's you got to get inside of yourself. It's you versus you every day as you wake up, show up for you, because it's only you. When you look at it like that, and I love that you said that, it's me versus me. When you look at it like that, you'll strive for more. You'll try harder. You'll work harder, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. But I when I read that article, I'm like, that statement is so powerful because it applies to anything, everything in life, And I'm glad that you're teaching your the young kids that too.
Absolutely.
So what first inspired you to pick up a golf club?
So, long story so I've always been a competitive person. At times I would tell myself, no, I'm not that competitive, but I'm always, like I said, whether it be me, myself, someone else, like I know that I want to do better for myself. So the time came, I was about, well, technically, if we throw it way back, I was like 2 years old.
Wow.
My mom, she took up golf for insurance purposes, and like that was her way into like the boys club, quote unquote. So she took it up. She handed me a golf club. Obviously, I was not hitting any golf balls. I was just running around the course acting crazy.
Yeah.
But that was me as a 2-year-old. And then, fast forward, right? And mind you, I played a bunch of different other sports, so golf was definitely on the back burner. My brother, he was doing like these summer clinic classes, and so he did it like 3 or 4 times in the summer. I obviously, rode in the same car as him. So every single summer we'd go to this golf course and I'd look out, I see the kids and I'm like, okay, this kind of looks cool. But like, if I'm going to keep coming here, I might as well, see what it's about. And what really intrigued me with golf and what kind of like kept me with golf was the social aspect. So like, once I got out of that car the first day, I just remember I was like super nervous, and then I started making friends and I got like comfortable and like I completely forgot about the golf aspect. I was like, hey, I'm just here to make friends.
Yeah.
Then we had like it's like a hot dog, chips, and a drink afterwards. That was like my favorite thing in the world because you got to socialize even more. And then fast forward, it was like this parent-child tournament. And then I got my grandparents and my parents, and mind you, like my parents really don't play golf, and my grandparents definitely don't play golf. But it was just cool, like having the family atmosphere of everybody coming together and like we're trying to figure out this crazy sport that nobody really knows. But just being with each other, the quality time, like can't take that for granted for sure. So that's what kind of like drew me to golf, and then like I said, the competitive aspect kept me with golf. And then one of my mentors one day was just like, I think you got a really good shot at a golf scholarship. So that's when I kind of put my 10 toes down, just kept working harder than I ever worked for anything. And then saw it through and graduated debt free. So
Wow.
that's kind of how it happened.
So were there any like female black golfers that you like took to like growing up at, that you saw like to say like, hey, or was it just that? Just you guys were taking your brother to practice and you're like, oh, I want to try this. But like, were there any like black female golfers that you saw back then? Not even famous, just someone you may have known that played.
Yeah, so there actually was none. I remember first taking up the sport, and like my parents have always, even though they've always like preached and helped us understand that we are African American and we are black. Just we've always been around a well-rounded community, so I've always had a lot of friends that were international, a lot of friends that were very different and outside of the normal scope of the African American community. So it was never like I was looking up to someone that was also an African American female. And, there's not that many to begin with.
Right.
But I want to say I was about 15, 16 years old. I had met a lady by the name Renee Powell. She was the second LPGA player that obviously was an African American to play on that tour. And that was kind of an eye opener for me because I don't even know what the age gap is between me and her. But just knowing that like she was technically the only other connect that I had. As far as like an African American, that I've ever played this sport, being female wise, and realizing how much of a struggle and impact she created just by her legacy alone, like that's super impactful and just shows like all that she's paved for me and just all the like hurdles that we still got to get through and like we're still overcoming. But it was a beautiful thing meeting her, and like she's still alive, which is amazing. And now she works at her dad's golf course, so that's a legacy in itself that maybe one day I'll do as well. But just baby steps right now, just knowing that like she's definitely done a lot more, and I'm still learning more and more from a lot of people about a lot of unsung heroes being in the golf industry.
So when did you realize that you were skilled enough to play at the collegiate level? Like what inspired you, like, hey, this is not just me playing golf for fun. Like, I actually can play golf, and I'm good at it, and I'm good enough to play at that next level.
That's true. I want to say it kind of started when I was 12 years old. I happened to enter this random qualifier, and my dad had heard about it, and it was actually from a family friend. They recommended it was called the Optimist Qualifier.
Okay.
And so Optimist is a great organization. They give back to the community for sure, but they're just providing, opportunities for kids like me to kind of like come to that national stage. And long story short, obviously applied for the qualifier, made it through the qualifier, and then the next step was to fly to California to then compete in the World Championship. So that was a complete eye-opener for me. I mean, the first time I came to California, being 12 years old, the most exciting thing was In-N-Out burgers. I told my parents, I was like, we got to stop by In-N-Out. I don't care.
My favorite burger spot.
So I was like, I don't care what we do. Like, I'm going to In-N-Out. So, like, that was the, highlight of the trip. And then just getting to see, being in La Jolla. So the World Championship is always held in La Jolla. So we played at Rancho Bernardo, but, like, the opening ceremony was Torrey Pines. And that little backdrop, seeing I don't even know, they probably had, like, 1,000,001 different country flags. 1,000,001 different kids, like all the way from like super young age to 18, and then a lot of them were decked out in different sponsors. So I'm looking at them, I'm like, oh, these are professional athletes I'm playing against, and that's when it hit me. I was like, okay, now I definitely have to step in my game, because it was just like me. I would take like a couple lessons here and there. Obviously played in more tournaments than I did when I was super young, first starting out, but like they're literally competing week after week with a nutritionist, a trainer. They've got a travel agent, they got their swing coach on speed dial. Like everything was definitely already like taken care of, and like they knew like they were there for business. So that's when I was like, okay, I have to seriously lock in and start really focusing on my training. But it was still like a hard battle for me to be like, I'm a golfer when I was doing travel soccer, I was doing AAU, a bunch of other sports were like, technically the priority at the time, even though I still was good at golf, but realizing how much of an impact and how little, female African-American golfers there are, I was like, okay, I could really like shoot my shot for this, make this a lot bigger than just me playing the sport. And then, like I said, the best chance of getting a golf scholarship, that's what I was focused on from that point on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something. And I love how you said when you realized, like, wait a minute, these are professional golf players. So that means I got to step my game up to play at that professional level.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So we know that there's not many, we kind of talked about this, not many minorities in the golf arena. So did you face like any challenges? Not even just being African American, but being a woman.
For sure. In my particular area back home, so the Northeast area, there's not too many females, like still to this day, there's still not too many females that actually play golf.
Wow.
In the South is where you're going to see the very competitive golfers and just all the array of golfers from super strong, super short, but like obviously accurate as they can be. And when I first started this sport, I was like, I really don't see myself like, I don't see a duplicate of myself per se. But I was just making golf, my own thing. Like I knew I could hit it very far, and I knew I was very like athletically skilled. So I knew even with not a lot of practice and not having a swing coach at the time, like I would figure out this sport no matter what. But at the time, I was just thinking to myself like, okay, if I don't see myself, I could at least be the person that I needed as a little kid or as someone who I would watch growing up. And playing with boys, it's a interesting situation in itself, but they make you a better golfer because the trash talking, they're trying to get in your head. Obviously them telling you, oh, you play from the ladies tees, that doesn't count. So then I was like, okay, let me play from the big boys tees. Like,
right.
I'll show you guys. And that's what kind of like inspired me to like keep going forward and keep seeing like what's the potential that I can possibly reach and keep reaching. And you realize there's no such thing as mastering this sport. Like every single day you're learning something new. Every single day, you're just trying to be better than the last day. Yeah. So it's like just trying to get that 1% better, whether you're working on one skill, whether you're working on one drill. And it'd be like the smallest difference. Like looking at my swing when I first started out to looking at my swing now, like it's a little different. Like it's not like super, super different because obviously the ball still goes straight for the most part. But there's just like technical things that's just making it a little bit more sound, a little bit more consistent. And obviously the power has increased. So like the timing and everything. But yeah, just constantly working to like be better and like, go back to that 8-year-old self. Cause when you get so wrapped up in this game, you start to become super technical and you're just like overthinking shots. And you're like, man, why isn't this going my way? Even though I've played for so-and-so years, but then you realize like your 8-year-old self was like the peak, to be honest with you. Like, when you didn't care, like that's the best way to play golf is like getting out of your head, just literally looking at the situation for what it is. And then as soon as you hit the ball, go follow it, like until it gets in the hole. And then, you move on to the next day. Like that's all you can really do in golf. Like,
Yeah.
all you can.
So were there like any pivotal moments where you realized the importance of representation in the sport?
For sure. So I started a nonprofit when I was 14 years old. It was called
Mm,
Grass Girls with Golf.
wow.
And it happened to come at the time when Girls Golf of Baltimore, and this was like the chapter,
Okay.
they were partnered with First Tee at the time, but there was a LPGA professional that was running it. And she was like, yeah, I think we're going to have to discontinue it. And I was looking at her like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And that was like another social outlet that I had where, I had friends that were also girls. They didn't play, golf too much. It'd be just
Mhm.
like once in a blue moon. But nonetheless, at least like we kind of had, the shared commonalities. We were the same age.
Right.
And hearing that that program was soon going to be discontinued, I was like, oh man, this is like, awful. I was like, I'm super young and like, I got 4, 5+ more years until I go off to college. So I was trying to look at, different alternatives, how to still
Yeah.
stay with these girls, stay connected. And then I was like talking to my dad and I was like, I don't know, let's just start a program. So I started that nonprofit, was working tirelessly to kind of like pitch it to different people and see if we
Mhm.
can get some, crowdfunding.
Right, right.
And then, fast forward, we got some, sponsorship money and just funding. We had our first event. It was a Halloween event. And that became the most popular event. So like all the
Mm.
girls, they dressed up. I had no idea how this was going to turn out. I was definitely not an event planner. My parents had planned everything up to that point. So for me to be like the host of everything and, for everybody to be looking at me, I was like, okay, 14-year-old self, we got to turn into an adult now.
Yeah.
But realizing how much joy and how much just fun the girls had, I was like, okay, let's keep doing this. Because like the age range was supposed to just be from like 8 to pretty much 18 years old.
Mhm.
It actually got extended that day that we had the first clinic to pretty much, technically 2 4 years old because there was this 2-year-old that showed up. She was super adorable. And, obviously girls have younger sisters, but her looking up at us and seeing like, oh, we're having this much fun and like,
Wow.
oh, golf is for you. She just took a really liking to it. So then she just kept coming back and back and back. And then she's probably going to be, shoot, 12 years old now. So
Wow.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, age is really sudden. Like
Yeah,
these kids are
yeah.
getting older and older. But I remember when they were super young, and now some of them are still in high school, going off to college, about to graduate college. Time is really flying by for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you have a passion, like I could just see it, to empower other girls, little girls to follow, try golf, try these step outside the box
Mm-hmm.
per se.
Absolutely.
So speak to the importance for athletes like you to mentor the next generation.
For sure. I feel like, and definitely being an athlete, there's a lot of times where the spotlight is like always on you.
Yeah.
So you're always, wanting to perform. You're always wanting to do your best. And you're
Yeah.
always wanting to make everything super positive. And like, don't get me wrong, like, going through life, you have to look at the glass half full rather than half empty.
Right.
But
Yeah.
there are times where, you're just really down on yourself and you're like, man, and like the best parts about being an athlete is like learning from your failures. It's not really the wins. It's
Mm.
like, okay, if I, failed at this or if I lost at this, like, how can I overcome this? How can I do better? How can I really, prove to myself I'm, not the person that I see today or not the person that I feel today, but it's way bigger, it's way better
Mhm.
than what I'm seeing at this present moment. Because golf, I mean, there's a lot of things that, are unsaid about the sport. And I think, more and more that social media is starting to highlight it or just, the paparazzi and news outlets are starting to, pick at athletes. More and more of it is coming out, but like, athletes at the end of the day are people as well. So
Yeah.
like we're sensitive when we can be, and we're sensitive when we
Right.
don't need to be. But there's a lot of times where you're just like realizing you're like, okay, I've got to put on this persona, but then I've also got to carry a normal life. And
Mm.
if I'm having a bad day, I can't,
Wow.
let the crowd show that. But the same thing goes with golf. It's like you're gonna have bad rounds, and you're gonna have days where obviously you wanted to be the best round that you possibly could, and maybe this was a tournament that you're really like serious about and you really
Yeah.
wanted to do well in, and maybe this was a qualifier for even a bigger event. But it's all about timing and just realizing, if it's meant to be, it will be. If it's not, there's no worry. There's a bigger thing coming for you in the future. So I think that's one thing that golfers need to speak more about is like, this is a very tough game, and it's
Yeah.
not something that you just like. I mean, yes, you can have a lot of fun with it. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's definitely recreational golfers, but looking at it from a competitive
Mhm.
standpoint, you're going to go through the hardest times of your life with this sport, just trying to figure out, like, is this sport for me? Do I want to stick it out? Do I want to see it through? Because there's this thing that we called swing changes. And beginners kind of experience it, but it's almost like, like when people are on like a weight loss journey, right? They'll lose weight, pretty much immediately, like in kind of a drastic way when they first start out, and then you kind of reach that plateau.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with like golfers, right? It's like when you first start out, you're making like these huge strides, and then you reach points where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm going backwards, even though you're not going backwards. It's just like very small steps that you're not quite seeing. But like once you start getting the hang of things and start, acclimating to swing changes, quote unquote, and just embracing it, that's when you start seeing the difference in the long run, and then it pays off. But getting past that point, like, you just got to keep pushing and pushing, and just starting to believe that, like, you've got to really trust the process, because so many people are like result oriented, and I don't believe in being result oriented, because obviously there's beginners that have made, hole-in-ones, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is the end all be like, I'm, the best golfer in the world. The next hole, you can make a double, a quadruple. Like, golf will humble you so quickly. So, like, you always got to remember, it's about staying consistent and, swinging within your means.
Yeah.
Because, golf is very similar to life. Like, too similar.
And it's so, I was going to say that everything you just said applies to life.
Yeah. Literally.
Like, you're applying it to golf, and I'm thinking to myself, this is life. Like, these are life lessons.
It's true. It's true.
Oh my gosh. So in 2024, you launched Golf Eudaimonia. Tell us about that. Like, what inspired it, and what type of organization is it?
Absolutely. So it's a small business, but it kind of speaks to, what we were just talking about, how, like, athletes go through these ups and downs. And I remember as soon as I graduated, well, really the whole journey of going through the college process, or just, playing college golf, I wanted to turn pro, immediately. As soon after college, obviously I'd get my degree, walk the stage, and then, I'd be hitting the road, just traveling and traveling and traveling. But obviously the cards kind of like steered me in another direction, and I've realized, like, everything that I've done throughout my life is kind of like transpired to the journey and the path that I'm going. So, like, starting with the nonprofit and starting, I was a coach at an indoor facility. I was a volunteer coach with the First Tee. I was even a part-time coach in college at an indoor facility, and like all the things just kind of like, I don't know, found their way to how they are now. But nonetheless, like, I realized I was like, my true passion is really helping people. And seeing the beauty of things, because I know personally myself how hard this sport is, but just kind of being that positive outlet of like, hey, golf is for you, even though you don't think it's for you, even though you've given it a try. I've got some students, right? They took like a 30-year break, and they're like, man, I was stuck, 30 years ago, and, I just gave up, and I put my clubs to the side, or I just gave my clubs away, and, now I want to get back into it. I want to try it.
Wow.
And they're actually loving it
after
now.
30 years.
Yes.
Wow.
And I've had some people even longer, and it's like one of those things. Kind of golf is narrating or kind of changing the ways of people's minds for sure. So like the entertainment industry or just, production companies, they're definitely making golf a lot more cooler. Cause like growing up, like,
you're right.
I would get bored watching the golf channels.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, oh my God. Like, I was like, I'd much rather be playing this sport. But now, you've got, it's YouTube golf. That's a thing. Obviously the golf influencers of the world. Just a lot of personalities are starting to come into the mix to make this sport a lot more realistic, a lot more relatable, which is nice to see. And the fashion industry is taking off. I've always been one of fashion of just like trying to bring something that's so different, because before it was just like you would see a lot of like plaid and like solid colors, and like, the clothes would be super long, and you're like, man, I look like an old person even though I'm a young person. So I'm trying to figure out how to make this sport myself. And I remember at my home course back home, I just kept challenging that narrative and like pushing the envelope. And the older members were like, man, this girl. And I just be like, hey, you just wait. Because, like, I would see it on the West Coast. I knew for sure slowly it would start making its way over to the East Coast. I would just have to, keep pushing that envelope. And we're definitely making progress. I think older members or just older golfers are starting to realize, like, they have to attract younger members in order to maintain their country clubs and just maintain the way of golf, because that's how you actually grow the game. But, yeah, just keep pushing that envelope. And even junior golf nowadays. So, like, junior golf has always been like, at the end of the day, you start out maybe, with just scratch, maybe a couple lessons, and then the end result, you're hoping to make the next Tiger Woods. And now junior golf is starting to change where it's like, it's more of motor skill type sport, more of just fun, analyzing a lot of like STEM related skills, a lot of STEM games. Just to keep the kids engaged and see like, hey, like even if you don't want to be a professional golfer, right? Like you can be an architect, you can be, a clothing design. Like there's so many different avenues in this golf industry that, have yet to take off, and you can be part of it if you just, stick with the sport.
And even like you said, as you mentioned, the fashion for golf, like someone who may want to be a clothing designer could do that. That can be their niche.
Absolutely.
Create, a more modern fashion, modern day fashion for golf. And like when that kind of stood out when you mentioned that. Like I think that is so unique, kind of like Serena, like they did with tennis.
Literally.
Yeah, giving it a new look. And it attracted more people to it.
And now it's pretty much the most popular, or like really the highlight of tennis. Like when you talk about like Coco Golf, I mean, I think I've seen her in this past like year, probably in like 6, 7, maybe 8 different like major shoots.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't think I've ever seen like this many shoots.
Yeah.
But she's starting to become, I mean, like I'd say the Beyonce of sports.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I want to share a fun fact. I want you to share a fun fact about you. What's your go-to song or your playlist before you hit the golf course, before you're getting ready for this like really important game, and you are just like you got to get focused, you got to get amped up? Like, what is your song or songs playlist? Some people have like a playlist that they just kind of put together and they listen to this an hour before or whatever. So what is your song or playlist?
Yeah, I don't have a particular song. I'd say back in the day, I might have had a song or two that you can kind of stick with. A lot of it was definitely gospel related for sure, and just to kind of keep the spirits uplifted and just remind myself, even if I hit a bad shot,
That's
like
right.
God's got me. Nowadays, it's kind of just random, to be quite honest with you. It's really just like whatever song I've heard in the past week, I kind of go with, and then obviously, that adds to the playlist, and just trying to figure out exactly what type of mood I am to kind of shape my round will also determine the songs. So I just actually listened to an old Kendrick Lamar song this past week. But I think it kind of just, I mean, where our country's at, it kind of just spoke for it. So just taking my mind off of that and being like, okay, there's a lot more things in the future that's going to come about, and just keeping the hope alive. Like a lot more things that, got to look forward to and be grateful for, and just, keep seeing it through.
I like that. That's why I thought that was a good question to ask, is I know with me, so I go to the gym like 3 or 4 times a week. So there are certain songs that I listen to when I'm on certain machines. Ultimately, my playlist is gospel, right? I have my Kirk Franklin gospel Pandora station. So when I do my walk every day, I'm listening to gospel. But if I'm on if I increase my weights, I'm putting on Kendrick Lamar. Like I'm pushing. And there, Lean Back by Fat Joe, Terror Squad. That's one of my. But I love how you said that. Like sometimes it can be random. The same with me. Like ultimate, like I said, my daily walk is. I usually walk like 45 minutes to an hour.
Nice.
That's gospel. That's my Kirk Franklin Pandora gospel station. It's all my favorite gospel hits on there. But when I go to the gym and I'm on certain machines, like the weight machine or the ab machine, depends on how hard I have to go. It's either the Kendrick Lamar or Lean Back by Fat Joe.
That's funny.
And then I also have like a song. If I'm getting dressed to go out, it's called "You're My Star" by Tank. I listen to that if I'm like getting dressed to go out. Like if I'm okay, I want to get cute.
Hype yourself up. Okay, nice.
So that's why I like to ask people that, like, what is like your song? Like you're like, who is it? Deion Sanders says, play my theme song. Like, what's your theme song? And I remember when he started doing it, I'm like, oh, I thought that was just me. I thought that was like a me. Like nobody knew about this. Like I'm the only person that does that. But I think that is so cool.
Yeah, no, you definitely have to have a song. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I know
yeah.
sometimes like I'll just be like a tune will just pop, and when you just said Beyonce, it
Right.
was like dun dun dun. I was like, wow.
So, what would you like your legacy to be, both as a golfer and as a woman of color in that sport? What would you like your legacy to be?
For sure. I think, and this speaks for all African American women, but
Yeah.
just seeing themselves as something way beyond disbelief. So,
Mm.
most
Ooh, I
recently,
like that.
yeah, they just had that, Nike 4 minute race, and I was
Mhm.
watching it, and I was like, I'm very, very still in this beginning
Yeah.
running stage, but seeing a woman, try to break 4 minute mile, and I was like, this is crazy, but this is the coolest thing to watch because like you
Yeah.
saw like her whole team like kind of crowd around her and then just keep pushing her
Wow.
and like how long she's training and to hear she's even a mother. I was like,
Mhm.
I even know like that's crazy. And it's because
Yeah.
your body goes through changes,
Right,
hormones,
right, yeah.
age, and everything. So the fact that she was super super close and like
Mhm.
she even ended up breaking her original record. I was like, wow, there's a lot more things that we're just we still got to just keep pushing and just not
Yeah.
settling for less. And I mean, that's why, I do hiking and I do running and I'm even a surfer. And like, there's just so many things that typical Black people don't do.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want to encourage people to get involved and step outside of their
Step
norm
outside.
because it
Yeah.
definitely helps our well being and our state of mind and just betters our people as a whole. And so
Yeah.
that's pretty much my legacy, just trying to make something way beyond what I ever saw it. And every single day that I stay in LA, I realize I'm like I never saw myself in this position at all.
Yeah.
But just seeing like how much I've grown and like continue to grow and how much I still got to like keep going. And I mean the sky's the limit. Like literally anything that you want to be,
Exactly.
anything that you didn't believe that you could be, like you just turn out and one day you just happen to be in that position in that
Yeah.
spot and meet the right people. And yeah, it is insane how small the world is.
Mhm.
Because to your point, I mean, I think I've met probably, and I've only been here a little less than 2 years, but at least like 2,000, 3,000 people that like, you hear about it, you talk about, and you see on social media. Some people I was actually friends with on social media before I moved to LA.
Mhm.
But just seeing them in person and meeting them and seeing how down to earth they are and
Yeah.
just seeing the careers and the impacts that they've made, I'm like, wow, like this is incredible to watch. And just
Yeah.
realizing like, I'm at my own pace, so I definitely got to stay the course and
Right.
just remember like, if that's where they're at, like hopefully, I'll be there and I just got to keep seeing things through.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you said going beyond your disbelief. That's powerful. Yeah.
Because many people,
'Cause
like, you just don't see yourself. And it's
yes,
like,
that's it. Yep.
just
Yep. Yep.
start daydreaming, honestly.
Yeah.
That's my best advice.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything new you have coming up?
A lot coming up. I'd say class wise, like, we're kind of still in the meat and potatoes of things, being the
Okay.
summer. So, like, tomorrow's a full day, pretty much from 7 o'clock until 7 p.m. Just got private lessons, group classes, more group classes, and then another private lesson. But just constantly like pushing more and more stuff out there, and then trying to expand territory as well. So right
Mhm.
now, most of the classes are held in South LA.
Okay.
But obviously there's a lot of people that have been asking me like, hey, can you come to Orange County? Hey, can you come to the Valley? And it really only
Wow.
takes like one small conversation to really make these connections
Yeah.
happen. So, you never really know what the next, couple months are. I mean, obviously I know what the rest of July will be, but like, yeah, the next couple months, I literally could be this place, could be that place. And then this past February, we held it was a Black women's insurance conference in
Mhm.
Torrance,
Mhm.
and that idea had been brewing for quite a minute. But just like a old connect at Howard kind of connected me with someone that was in the insurance industry, and
Okay.
they happen to have their national conference in Torrance of all places,
Mhm.
and they're like, hey, we'd love for you to be an instructor. Then I brought two other African American instructors along with me to that conference, and then just realizing
Wow.
we were literally like 3 out of 30 African American women that actually like quote unquote are golf professionals, but there's very few that actually like teach the sport within those professionals. So seeing that like we all three came together,
Yeah.
taught a variety of women how to play golf, and then just got LAGC to back us up. Like that was a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank
And I love that you're bringing awareness and you're attracting more people to it, right?
Absolutely.
So how can people contact? What's the website for your organization? Like, if people somebody wants to learn how to golf, they need your training services, as well as if somebody wants to help the organization out in some way. Just let us know, like the website, how they can contact you.
Cool. So the website is www.golfeudaimonium.com. So to spell it, it's golf, GOLF, and then eudaimonium is EUDAIMONIA, and then .com, of course. The Instagram handle, if you want my business one, it'll be ms.growthegame. And that's pretty much it for socials. Obviously, I have a Facebook page, and then obviously a Facebook actual username, but like Kendel Abrams Golf is how you'd find the Facebook. TikTok, either one of those, either Kendel Abrams or Golf Eudaimonia, be easy ways to find that. I think that's about it. If you don't see an event on my website, it might be on Eventbrite, might be on Posh, might be on Sweat Pals. There's a lot of channels that kind of promote my stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been a pleasure to see a Black female golfer. Like, this is amazing. Okay. And I am just so proud of what you're doing, especially for your generation. Like you said, those little kids, they need you.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think it's so powerful that even at your big young age that you are willing to take a step back and do something to empower and inspire the next generation, not only speaking life into them, but actually guiding them and giving them some tools. So I think that is so powerful. And so I just love all that you're doing for the community. Thank you once again for coming on to the show. And to our viewers, I thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Women Can Do Show. Be sure to click that subscribe button. It is right there in front of you. Click that subscribe button so you can get notifications for this show, other shows, all of our events for the I Can Do organization. God bless you all and have a good evening.